Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Bryce Simon is joining me today. We're going to break down and answer 10 questions about the NBA to this point in the season. Those questions are going to include thoughts on the Lakers, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Rockets, some all-NBA takes, some NBA draft takes, and more. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Oh! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? Give my bobblehead some love here to start the episode. I can't ever figure out the right way to turn it. I'm excited for Thanksgiving tomorrow. It's my favorite holiday because I love food. We're going up to Chris's house. He's making a prime rib, so I'm excited for that. Sent me a picture today. Apparently, Crumble Cookie does pies for Thanksgiving. So he went by Crumble Cookie and got some pies that hopefully will still be available by the time me and the family get there tomorrow. So excited for that. Watch some sports. Check out the Chiefs Raiders game in person on Friday. Should be a good couple days.
Man, you have a nice little thing going on. Plus, so I went on Jason Timp's show, Hoops Tonight, for today. That's gone up already. Please, everyone, go subscribe to his channel. We love Jason here. Jason's the best. He said that his family also does prime rib, and he's like doing a prime rib on his barbecue, like literally today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I appreciate people thinking outside the box, getting away from the turkey. I'm not the biggest turkey fan. Growing up,
neither am I.
Yeah. My dad, he's one of 10, and his family all got together. Like, so all of his brothers and sisters live in the area. So all my cousins. So we had these big family get-togethers. So usually we had some other option other than turkey, maybe ham or something like that. But this will be my first prime rib. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that crumble cookie. And also, I was telling someone today, my oldest son is so spoiled. He is 10 years old, Sam. This will be his fourth in-person Chiefs game already in his life. Not to mention the fact that he's only lived in the Patrick Mahomes era of Kansas City Chiefs football. Like this kid, man, he's going to have a tough adulthood. He's going to go through what Dallas Cowboy adults are going through right now.
Yeah, look, like I can, like from when I was his age, so like the team I rooted for most was the Penguins. I think I've talked about this. And then the Pirates, obviously, as well. I mean, the Pirates were catastrophic from the time that I was 1 year old until the time that I turned like 24. Like they didn't make the playoffs once in that entire time. And then the Penguins, obviously, they had the crazy like Lemieux, Yager, Francis years in the early 90s, but like I was 3 years old when they won their title. And from that time until like 2004, so like my formative years, like growing up rooting for hockey, it was like a question whether or not the team was going to stay in Pittsburgh. And like Dick Tarnstrom was the best player on the Penguins for like a 2-year stretch, basically. So I get what he's going through, but also I have no leg to stand on, kind of similarly to you, because as soon as like 2005 hit with the Penguins, they drafted like Malkin and Sidney Crosby and like, you know, just went on to being like superstar city, basically. So I can't sit here and complain about like sporting luck or sporting, you know, stars getting to play for my city. The Pirates I get to complain about because for the love of God, sell the team. But I do not get to complain about anything with the Penguins.
Yeah, I don't think I got to go to a Chiefs game until I think Chris actually set it up for my bachelor party that we went to a Chiefs game. That was the first one I ever went to. Now, he has season tickets, so I've been fortunate enough to go multiple times. So I shouldn't complain. I've been to Fog Allen Fieldhouse, caught KU games. Now with all this, I've been to NBA Summer League. So I have no complaints at this point in my life. I just know at 10 years old, I hadn't experienced the things he had. And we went through the quarterback situation of the Chiefs whenever I was growing up compared to what he has got to experience thus far. So lucky little dude being a Chiefs fan right now.
That absolutely rocks. That rocks so hard for your kids. Okay. Plan here 10 questions about the NBA going into Thanksgiving. We're just going to dive in and we're going to do this because we have a hard out here in like 90, not 90. We have a hard out here in like an hour, basically, it looks like. So, okay. Question number 1. They're beautiful banners that GMAC created for us. Shout out Andrew Claudio, as always, here. If you're not already following all of the social channels for Game Theory Sam V over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, whatever social platform you're using, please, by all means, go follow the show there. Okay. Question number 1, how big of an issue is the defensive side of the court for the Los Angeles Lakers? Last night, the Lakers gave up 127 in a cup game to the Phoenix Suns. So far this season, the Los Angeles Lakers are now 10-8 on the year, 10-7, maybe 10-7. Sorry. They have the 27th ranked defense in the league at 118.4 points per 100 possessions given up. And when you watch them, like they just do not feel athletic enough. There's a lot more going on, and I did a video on it for yesterday, and we'll talk through all of that. But I'll ask you this question. How big of an issue is this side of the court for the Lakers as they try to get near the top of the league?
Yeah, so if we're talking about like them, finishing top 6 in the West and getting into the playoffs on that, like I'm not overly concerned because the offense is really good, right? Like the offense right now is top 5 in the NBA. If we're talking about them being a real contender in the West and in the NBA in general, I think it's a big issue. You don't have to be top 10 on both sides of the court if you're very, very good on one side, but you can't be 27th. I can't take this team serious as a contender whenever they're 27th in defensive rating. And at this point, like we always, and rightfully so, talk about how phenomenal LeBron James is still playing. He's not that level of dude on the defensive end at all. And I think he could turn it up a little bit in the playoffs, but I think some of that is just flat out gone. Who is the perimeter defensive stopper, right? Another team we're going to talk about. We've said this with them ever since the Damian Lillard trade. Who guarded the primary perimeter matchup for the Bucks once that trade happened? It's the same question for the Lakers. I love Austin Reeves. I'm a big Austin Reeves fan. But if he's having to do that, it's probably going to take away a little bit from his offense. And he's not equipped, like best equipped to do that. Rui's not going to do it. D'Lo, we talked about Dalton Connect. I mean, is Max the one guy that maybe you do that with? And so it's just like, yeah, like maybe, right? And so I think it's an issue. I guess I know that's a long way of saying it. The Pelicans game is the most recent one I watched. I have the Suns game downloaded. I didn't think they looked engaged. I thought the Pelicans got a lot of fluid, walk into 3-point attempts. And here's the thing. They don't dominate anywhere defensively, Sam. They don't turn you over a lot. They don't block a lot of shots. They don't dominate you on the boards. There's just nothing on that end of the floor that you can say, well, they're doing this at a really high level.
Yeah, so let's just kind of dive through the, cacophony of errors here. First and foremost, they're just bad in transition. Like this is in part LeBron, like LeBron not always running back in transition, but in part it's communication and it's athleticism and consistently being able to run and sprint back. They don't have a lot of fast players out there. Anthony Davis tends to fall, and that takes him a moment to get up on the offensive end. LeBron tends to kind of jog back. Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Dalton Connect. Connect is actually athletic, but he's not necessarily, a super high level defender in terms of communication. Number 2, I don't think they communicate well in half court situations. You saw a play last night where it felt like they didn't know what their plan was in order to guard like a stack pick and roll. And part of this was that Dalton Connect was involved, and Connect is a rookie still trying to learn these things. But, it was very clear that AD wanted him to drop, and Connect was like, oh, I'm just going to like watch the ball basically. Cause it looked like he'd never seen a stack pick and roll before in terms of the way that he defended it. I talked about that one on the channel as well. 3, I think that, LeBron, Russell, some of those guys have been a little too cavalier in terms of their off-ball defense. just not quite staying attached enough. Sometimes getting back cut. D'Angelo had a really bad one last night where Tyus Jones got him at the end of the third quarter. And just in general, the fourth one is the one I'm most worried about. The first three things, like, you can fix that with more reps throughout the season, with more everything throughout the year. But the main issue here is just athleticism on some level, and speed and quickness and ability to stop dribble penetration, right? There are some Lakers fans that feel like they're overhelping. And I don't really even know that I disagree with that necessarily, but overhelping tends to happen when you get beat at the point of attack as consistently as the Lakers do, because you have to find a way to stop the ball once guys get in the paint. So I understand that you can fix the first three things. I understand that, the overhelping is an issue on some level, but to me, the more overarching problem here for the Lakers defensively is that lack of speed, basically that lack of quickness, that lack of toughness at the point of attack. And that's where they're going to have to improve at the deadline. And that's why I'm still really high on the Lakers this year, because I think you can find that at the deadline. I think you can go out and get a Bruce Brown. You can go out and get any number of defensive options. Maybe Chris Dunn comes available across the town, right? Like, there are different ways that you can fix that potential issue. But right now, if they weren't to go about fixing it, I do think it would be a significant problem for them.
Here's the funny thing as well. And I do think these things are correlated. I don't think they have to be like fully the way some people talk. They're also not a very good offensive rebounding team. So they have transition issues, and it's not like it's, hey, we're going to send 3 guys, 4 guys to the offensive boards and be a top 5 offensive rebound team. They're actually bottom 5 offensive rebound team, bottom 6 offensive rebound team. If you're not sending people to the boards aggressively, theoretically, you should be getting back in transition. I'm glad you brought up the athleticism thing, because again, and you outlined it on an individual basis, and I think this will come up with another team we talk about, just athleticism and speed and energy and those type of things. And this team doesn't have a whole lot of those guys, or at least if there are ones on the roster, they're not the guys that are playing. So I think it's a real concern. I think it is going to have to be addressed with personnel, or you just have to be so good offensively that it somehow makes up for it, but you can't make up for a bottom 4 defensive team. It's also interesting here. Like, they're killing teams at the free throw line, Sam. Like, we know they get there offensively. They actually keep teams off the free throw line on defense, and it's still this bad. So it's just, it is interesting. And I don't know what the fix is other than personnel.
Yeah. To me, it is an issue where they're going to have to go out onto the trade market and fix it. And it is an issue that will stop them from winning a title this year, or will stop them from like winning a playoff series, even potentially right now. That's how bad it is to me. Like, if they played the Warriors, I was talking about this with Jason, like if they played the Warriors would just like obliterate them, I feel like, in a 7-game series, because they just outrun them. They'd out communicate them. It would be a problem.
You know who else? Like, I don't know. Could they stay with the Grizzlies? We've talked about the Grizzlies offense and how
honestly,
it's always moving and flowing and all of that. It's like, how often are they going to get lost off the ball? How often are they going to get back cut? All of those things because of that Grizzlies pace and the way they move off the ball offensively.
Yeah. And look, like, I hope that they fix it, because I think this team has real upside in a way that the Lakers haven't really had for a minute here. But yeah, that's where I'm at on the Lakers here moving forward. Question number 2. How big of an issue is the defensive side of the court for the New York Knicks? So far this season, the New York Knicks, Bryce, they are also 10-7, second best offense in the league, 23rd in defensive rating. They have a +6 net rating, so you don't want to necessarily like over consider all of these things necessarily here. But man, structurally, when you watch this team, it does feel like a real issue that teams can really take advantage of on a night-to-night basis, depending on how they are playing. Like, for instance, Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns just are not super high-level defenders. Brunson particularly is not a good defender just because of the physical tools. Towns is good in certain situations, but is terrible in drop. He is good against like bigger bodies, like Jokic, for instance. He does a really good job with Jokic at bodying up and bothering players on the block as a post defender. But he's also never really been the best rotator around the rim in order to contest shots. Then you have Mikal Bridges, who is a whole other issue right now. I mean, you're shaking your head, Bryce. You can just take it from there on Mikal.
No, we've talked about it a little bit. I thought he was an elite wing defender, and he hasn't been. Like, this team cannot contain the ball outside of OG and I guess Josh Hart. Like, I think OG's been really good this year. I find myself every game with Mikal, and I feel like I'm crapping on him all the time, but maybe my expectations were too high. And so that has not been good. You needed those wings to be elite because you knew you weren't going to be good at the 1 and at the 5. So you needed 2 through 4 to be awesome, incredible. And that has not been the case with those guys. OG has been really good. Sorry. Other than OG.
Yeah. Mikal to me has been the bigger issue. For them. Mikal is like disappointing on that end. And look, last year and when the trade happened, you and I talked about the fact that he has not been a great defender for the Brooklyn Nets, right? But the Brooklyn Nets were not necessarily contending for anything. And we said, hey, you know, maybe he gets back to his Phoenix best once he gets into a super highly competitive situation. And the
offensive usage was going to go down too. That was part of it for me, right? Like, he doesn't have the insane usage offensively, more energy to play defense.
Absolutely true. My issue for him right now is that he doesn't slither around screens quite as well as what he used to when he was with Phoenix. I feel like his hips are a little bit slower and a little bit more robotic, and thus he gets clipped on those screens more often than what he used to when he played for the Suns particularly. And that's a real problem. Like, he is not right now an elite level defender. Honestly, I think he's been a bad defender this year to this point. That's not to say he can't turn it up and get better and improve. We've seen it before from him. But to this point, I think he's actually been like a slightly below average defender. Now, here's why I am less worried about the defensive side of the court for the Knicks than I am the Lakers. They're going to get Mitchell Robinson back.
Yeah. Yep. That's right.
Mitchell Robinson is a player that makes this roster with Karl Towns make a whole lot more sense. Towns can slide to the 4. They can bring Josh Hart off the bench. But here's the issue. If Mikal isn't a great defender, then you still have Towns, Brunson, Mikal to be able to potentially attack on the defensive side of the court if you're an opposing offense. Now, Mikal is still long against a team like the Celtics. He's okay because guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they are good matchups for Mikal, more so than when he gets switched onto a guard, right? When he gets switched onto a guard, I feel like there's just like a real issue there, and he doesn't really have the speed to be able to recover. Against those guys where he can body up, I'm not saying he's like a great defender at this point, to this point, but I do think that there are solutions that can occur. I'll be interested to see how, look, the big thing with Mitch is like, what is he when he comes back?
Yeah.
Is he fully healthy? Is he somebody that can play 25 to 30 minutes a night? If he's not, then like you're bringing him off the bench and he's playing 15 to 20 minutes a night and you're still dealing with Towns for, 25 to 30 minutes a night at the center position. But the key for the Knicks now moving forward, once Mitch gets back, is figuring out, okay, can these two play together in a consistent, substantial way? If they can, great. If they can't, they probably still have to go out and find another move to make in order to solidify their defense.
And I mean, I know it's always a conversation with Tibbs. I'm interested to see how this regular season wears on these guys. All 5 starters are playing more than 33 minutes a night. 3 of them, all 3 of those wings are playing 36 plus. Even Deuce is right there at 27. And so I know this is how Tibbs does it. I know this is how they play. I'm just interested how it plays out. Sam, I've been thinking about this. How crazy is it that the Knicks and Timberwolves traded with each other and both got 13 spots worse in defensive rating from where they were last season. The Knicks went from 10th last year to 23rd right now. And the Timberwolves, I know we're not talking about them, but they went from 1st to 13th. So like you would think one of them would get better or something. Like, no, they both just got substantially worse than what we saw them last regular season after this trade was made.
Yeah, and I was higher on that deal for the Timberwolves at the time than what I should have been at the end of the day. Because watching Randall defend for the Timberwolves, I mean, Knicks fans know this. I wasn't saying that Randall was ever a good defender. I think he's been actually worse so far for Minnesota. He's never been like the most attentive defender by any stretch, but I felt like Tibbs like would get him to lock in from time to time. I mean, with Minnesota, he has been truly terrible on that end of the court. I mean, I feel like every video I break down where the Timberwolves are defending, I'm just like, well, Randall probably should be a little bit more engaged here. Well, Randall just got back cut. Like, I mean, come on, guys. We gotta get serious about this at some point. Yep. Okay. Before we move on, let's hit our first sponsor. Shout out the good folks over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We absolutely love PrizePicks here because at Game Theory, or we love PrizePicks here at Game Theory because of how easy they make it to get real money sports action. If on Thanksgiving you think Jared Goff is going to go nuts, if you think David Montgomery, shout out my fantasy icon, David Montgomery, is going to score more than 1.5 touchdowns, you can make those picks if you want to. You can make them in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks, but especially while you're sitting around watching football on Thanksgiving. Download the app today and use the code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code GameTheory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Second sponsor today, Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth for just $5 per month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Okay. The next question for us here. Kristaps Porzingis returned for the Boston Celtics on, what was that, Monday. It was a ridiculous offensive performance against the Clippers. They dropped 78, I think, in the first half of that game, which is against a Clippers team that has been top 5 in defense, just a ridiculous number. So I ask, with Kristaps Porzingis back, can anyone compete with Boston? Are they the clear number 1 title contender for you in a tier by themselves?
Yeah, I'll say yes. Because I want to see it from Cleveland for longer, and we haven't seen OKC healthy yet. Once I see what the Thunder look like with both bigs and all of that and the rotation fully healthy, this may change. If we get 30 more games of this from the Cavs, where once they've started getting all of this notoriety and all of that, people still stay, true to their roles and involved, maybe. But when we're talking about title contender, not like regular season win totals, but title contenders, because the thing is, Jason Tatum looks awesome.
Yeah,
this year. He's playing
top
awesome.
5 player in the league for sure.
No question. I had a stat the other day. Only 2 players in the NBA lead their teams in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game. Jokic is the easy one. Jason Tatum is actually the second one. Yeah. Jaylen Brown, did you see the first quarter the other night? That was unbelievable.
I broke it down on the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
he was sick against Minnesota.
He's playing well. Derek White is quietly somehow having a career year on top of what's already been a good year. We know what Drew Holiday brings. Al Horford still looks more than capable of knocking down threes and being switchable and playing all of that. And Peyton Pritchard is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA off the bench. Oh, let's add the 7'3" guy that can space the floor and give us some mid-post isolations when the offense bogs down. I want to see other teams, but I think it's foolish not to think that when you're saying title contender, they're the team that's proven it. They're back, they're healthy, and they look as good as they did last year.
Yeah, where I'm at on Boston is with Porzingis, assuming that all these guys get through the season, they are going to win the title.
Yep.
The way, like, Al Horford is he's a really good shooter, right? But he gets his shots in different ways than Porzingis does. So much of Boston's offense is catered to attacking different mismatches, right? They're just trying to get your worst defender switched on to Tatum, switched on to Brown, attack, kick out, get the ball into rotation, attack, kick out, get the ball into rotation, dump off if you can around the basket, everything like that. Horford isn't a great pick and pop shooter. He's fine. Like, he's a fine pick and pop shooter, but he's not the weapon that Porzingis is. At 7'3", being able to shoot 30-foot threes coming off of like very high screens up the court. It completely changes the entire dynamic of their offense when he's on the court. When he's on the court, you basically have no recourse for them. You can play drop. Okay, if you're going to play drop, your big is going to come in. The guard's going to fight over the top. Tatum can just pitch it back to Porzingis for a wide open three. With the high release point, if you're not within 3 feet of him immediately upon the catch, it's an open three-pointer because he's so high, because the release point is so high. If you switch it, okay, now you have a big on Jason Tatum. He's just going to attack. If you try and like put 2 on the ball to get the ball out of his hands, okay, now they're in a 4-on-3 situation with everybody else, and they're just going to reverse it across the 3-point line, where because they all are 40% 3-point shooters, all 6 of the guys out there, it is insanely difficult to actually be able to guard them and continue to close out on all of them. You're going to make a mistake at some point. So yes, this team is very clearly the title favorite right now. If somebody gets hurt, that could change things. I will also say, I asked, like, are they in a tier by themselves? I think Oklahoma City is in their tier. I think they're the clear favorite. They might be like the best offense I've ever watched in my life, Boston. Oklahoma City with Hartenstein and Chet, when Chet comes back, I'm intrigued to see what that looks like.
Yes.
I want to see what both of those guys together can look like, because we saw what the defense looked like with Chet Holmgren. With Chet Holmgren, my goodness, man, like, they were unbelievable. When Chet was there, they had like a 97.5 defensive rating for their first like 8 games or 10 games, whatever Chet played. He was incredible. Having that rim protection plus all of the ball pressure, it's a very similar formula to what Boston does on defense. And oh, by the way, Boston's issue so far this season has been scoring around the rim defensively. Teams have been able to get paint touches, been able to finish around the basket. That's really been like the main number one concern for them. Porzingis is 7'3" and he's a great rim protector, and not as many teams can take advantage of teams like this. So in the way that Boston does with their 3-point shooting. So Man, I think Boston's the clear favorite. I will say that I think Oklahoma City is sick and is like a really, really good team. And they were like on a historic pace defensively to start the season. And I want to see what that looks like when they get back. Their defense might be close to what Boston's offense is. But I do think Boston is ahead because I think that Boston's defense is probably a slight step ahead of Oklahoma City's offense at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like Boston also is the defending champs. They've been there. They've been through multiple playoff runs. They finally, cracked the code and got all the way through. Oklahoma City, got into the playoffs last year, obviously, and got a taste of it. I'm just going to give the edge to the team that's been there, especially when they're returning everybody. And again, we haven't seen the full iteration of OKC. Maybe once I see 30 games of the fully healthy OKC team that I've been super excited about, maybe I'll change my tune. Like maybe it will look so good with 48 minutes of those two bigs, with 20 of those minutes of them on the floor together and it not messing up their offense, that I'll just go, no, this team can really, really challenge. And listen, like that would be an awesome 7-game series to see the matchups and the changes and how everybody would go at each other. So I'm with you. I think it's clearly those two teams right now. I'll just give Boston a slight like tier by themselves, even though OKC is easily number 2.
Question number 4. For the 40th podcast in a row, we're going to talk about the Houston Rockets. Are the Houston Rockets a real contender to win a playoff series this season? So far, the Houston Rockets are 13-6 this year. They look great. I mean, if we're just being completely honest, they have a top 2 defense. They have a top 20 offense, but their net rating, they have a plus 8.5 net rating. That's 4th in the league. I think their strength of schedule is up to like 9th now in the West, so not like catastrophic necessarily. Where are you at with the Houston Rockets in terms of them actually contending in a real playoff series this year?
Yeah, sure. I'll say yes. Like, I don't know that I would bet money on this one. I don't know that I'm as strong as maybe I am some others, but if you tell me they get into the playoffs, obviously that looks very likely right now. Likely, very maybe strong because the West is so good, but looks likely. And if you tell me they get in there and like, who says Jalen Green doesn't have a series, right? We saw him go a whole month where he played unbelievable, right? Different level of competition, but if it's the right matchup where what if they play a team that doesn't have a perimeter stopper, Sam, that doesn't have the athleticism to stay with Jalen Green or the depth that when they bring in Amin Thompson and Tariq Eason, that they can run with those guys? What if they play a team that's not very athletic and just their athleticism is able to take advantage of that, let alone the experience of Fred VanVleet, who starting to play a little bit better than the percentage is still not great. And you mentioned how good Dylan Brooks has been playing. So when your defense is that good, you have some potential guys that can go crazy scoring. I think you would have a chance. I don't know that I'd bet on it, but sure, I think there's a chance they go win a series depending on the matchup.
I think there's a chance.
Okay, I say break their hearts. I can't wait. Your mentions will be insane.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think that I know they're 13-6 and they look great to this point. I do worry that in a playoff series, their lack of ability to consistently break down defenders off the dribble and get teams into rotation and create efficient shots on offense will be something that a team playing them game after game in a 7-game series will be able to particularly exploit. Like there are a number of players out there on the court that you can theoretically get away from guarding in a playoff series. Like if Dylan Brooks goes through one of his poor shooting stretches that happen, like he's shooting 40%. He's been truly one of the best role players in the league this year. I've said that a few times now, and it's not inaccurate. Dylan Brooks has been unbelievable this season. If he goes through a poor shooting stretch, you don't really have to guard him. Jabari Smith, like teams already go through stretches where they don't really guard him from time to time, depending on if he's a confident shooter that night. Jalen Green, I mean, like you do have to guard him, which is good, but his decision making is not very good. Fred VanVleet, goes through stretches where the shot is falling, where it's not falling, right? Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, those are guys the teams just like aren't going to worry about guarding from time to time in the playoffs, right?
They're 27th in the NBA in 3-point attempt rate and 25th in 3-point percentage. So like there's obviously some floor spacing concerns, especially when you get into a playoff situation.
And frankly, like, I love Alperen Şengün. I love what he's done this year. He's been better defensively this year. He's really been a high level passer this year. I really, really want to note that like the inefficiency around the rim, it's a problem because it costs the Rockets like 3 points, 4 points per 100 possessions, or no, he doesn't play 100 possessions. So per 60 to 70 possessions, which is like a big fucking difference in terms of your overall like team's net or offensive rating, right? He needs to finish around the basket better. But because he doesn't finish around the basket better, like currently Alperen Şengün right now around the rim, among players that have taken at least 60 shots around the rim centers, he is second worst with only Klingon behind him right now. So he needs to be able to consistently finish around the rim. Now, here's the good news for Şengün. If he does consistently finish around the rim, he's probably one of the best players, like one of the top 15 players in the league at that point. Like he might be that. And we've seen him finish around the rim before. So you hope that comes to fruition. He has been really good across all facets of the game outside of his scoring this season. But what the issue is that when he's not scoring, it artificially diminishes their ability to score when they get the ball into him. But B, what you're seeing teams do is they're not really worrying about doubling him. They're just kind of crowding his passing angles and like lanes and trying to cut off any sort of angle that can be created as a passer. So the fact that he's not finishing around the rim well and they're able to like kind of mostly single cover him for the most part with the right guys means that you're not actually opening up passing angles and taking advantage of his ability to be a hub unless you're giving him the ball like out at the top of the key in ball screen and short rolls, like different situations like that.
Let's break this question down to like its simplest form. Right now, in a 7-game series, Rockets over the Thunder. No. Warriors.
Probably not for me. That's an interesting matchup, though.
It is an interesting matchup. I would probably give the lean to a Steph Curry and Draymond Green team, even though there's some arguments there. The Grizzlies, healthy.
Healthy Grizzlies, no.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how, like, I don't know if a healthy Grizzlies is a realistic thing. So, like,
fair. Okay.
In the aggregate, I might take the Rockets over the Grizzlies, but if we're saying fully healthy Grizzlies, I would take the Grizzlies.
Suns.
I would take the Suns.
The Lakers. This one's interesting.
Right now, I would take the I would take the Rockets actually against the Lakers, but the Lakers, I think. So here's the other thing about the Rockets here as we go through this exercise, and I think it's an interesting exercise for sure. The Rockets have more trade firepower than anybody in the league right now.
This is very true.
So like, the question is, do they decide to cash in on that right now? Or do they take it into the offseason when Jalen Green's contract isn't poison pilled and you can find different avenues to be able to make trades? Or do they try and cash in? Like the Jalen Green deal, you can move that now. Like there's actually a trade, like you can do something like, I think it's like Jalen Green, Steven Adams, and like Aaron Holiday or something. And maybe you have to include Jock Lawndale or Jeff Green in there for Zach LaVine and, Duarte or Javon Carter or whatever you want to do. Right. And I'm not saying that they should do this. Like, I don't know that that's actually a good move for them. Having said that, like Jalen Green gets expensive next year. And Zach LaVine is a drastically better player than Jalen Green right now. So you lose that like contract efficiency that is Jalen Green. He needs to get good like immediately, basically. So I don't know what to do there with all of this. They're a weird team when it comes to trades. The other piece of it with the Rockets is, and like I'm not breaking news here, but that front office like really tends to love its guys, like the guys that they have. Now the good news is that like there are guys on that team that I don't know that the front office is like super attached to, right? Like Jock Lawndale, Steven Adams, one of those guys probably can get moved. You could probably move Jayshawn Tate's expiring deal. You could probably move Jeff Green if you want to, but Jeff Green, from what I gather, is like a really nice veteran presence to have around all of those kids. So you have like ways to do it without moving bodies and by using the picks that you have at your disposal.
Say you have real pick equity as well if you really want to make a move.
Totally. So I'll be interested to see how they attack the deadline, I think, is my question. I don't know how that will occur yet.
I agree. And I think based on all of that, the other teams like the Clippers would be a fun series because neither of those teams might score. They'll just play games in the 80s for sure. Nuggets, Mavericks, Spurs, or the 10 seed. Like, I think the answer is yes, based off the exercise we just went through and what you mentioned there. Unless they don't want to. Like, I guess that would be the thing is if they don't want to make a move and they want to figure out what this group looks like in a playoff series and what Jalen Green looks like in a playoff series, which I made the argument for the Thunder doing that last year, so I'd be hypocritical to say that the Rockets shouldn't. I guess I would be okay seeing that. That could be the thing that cost them from actually winning one and not even all in, but making a move. But I think my answer is yes. I think I've talked myself into yes. I think they're a contender to win a playoff series depending on matchup.
I agree with you that I think they are a contender to win a playoff series depending on the matchup, but I want to see kind of where the league settles at the deadline before I like really dive all the way into that one. Okay. Question number 5. This one will be a little bit shorter. It involves the Milwaukee Bucks. Have the Milwaukee Bucks actually figured things out now? The Milwaukee Bucks now, after last night's win against the Miami Heat, they are currently 9-9 after a catastrophic start. They have won, I believe it's something like 7 out of 8 or 6 out of 7, something like that.
7 out of 8.
7 out of 8. Their defense is up to 15th in the league after a truly disastrous start. Here's the thing. The Milwaukee Bucks are getting a superhuman Giannis on a night-to-night basis. Last night he didn't play. But I'll ask you this question to start, because I said this also on Tim's podcast earlier. I actually don't think I've ever seen Giannis play better on offense than how he's playing right now.
Yeah,
I think you can make a case for the Phoenix series in the finals where like he was unbelievable, but his well-roundedness right now on offense is as high level as I have ever seen it to this point. AA asks, has anyone seen Giannis's mid-range numbers? As of like Sunday, he was shooting like 46.5% from the mid-range.
So B-ball reference, they split it into the different ranges. He's actually hasn't been great from 3 to 10 feet, but 10 to 16, 54%, which would be a career high by 10%. And from 16 feet to the 3-point line, 49%, which would be a career high by 6%. So he is shooting extremely well. Now, there's not a lot of volume in those two ranges, but the ones he's taking, he's making. I watched him do it to Detroit. They kept forcing him to take them. He made them, even made a couple threes in that game, along with the way he gets to the rim.
Yeah, no. So there's that piece of it, which is huge for them. Defensively, they have figured some things out. They are no longer a Lakers level catastrophe in transition defense, which is huge. Also, I feel like by playing AJ Green instead of like a lot of Pat Connaughton minutes or a lot of DeLon Wright minutes, they actually have added a lot in terms of their overall team defense. Additionally, I think Andre Jackson being out there adds a ton just in terms of energy, athleticism, everything like that, ground coverage. So I think they fixed a lot of their issues. Brook Lopez has been really good recently. Giannis has been better recently than what it was at the start of the season when it felt like everybody was kind of feeling things out. I think my answer here is yes, they have figured things out and they are like a clear top 4 team in the East.
This was their get right stretch and it's not over. So they beat the Raptors, the Pistons, the Rockets, good win, the Bulls, the Pacers, the Hornets, and the Heat. So some good wins there. Here's what they get, Sam, coming up. Wizards, Pistons, Hawks, Celtics, Nets and Cavs, Wizards, Bulls, Nets, Bulls, Pacers, Nets, Trailblazers, Raptors. That's their next 13, 14 games. Like they could really go on a run here, is my point. Like not only are they 5th in the East at 9-9, they could go 10 of their next 13 and be 19-12. And we're not even remembering any of this because all of a sudden they're 3rd in the East behind only the Cavs and the Celtics. Now, do I think they're the 3rd best team in the East? I don't know. We'll have to see what it looks like. Giannis, unbelievable. Dame, Gary Trent Jr. playing a lot better, at least making shots. Over his last 7, he shot 54% from 3. That was not how he was shooting to start the year, where it was 23% from 3. So I think some of those things are starting to come together. You mentioned AJ Green, Andre Jackson Jr. I think they figured it out in terms of, as you mentioned, at least go be, a top 4 seed in the East. I'll hold judgment for a little while to see if I think they're title contenders again or not.
Yeah, to me, it's like between them and Orlando as that like 4 seed. I think New York, I think that, obviously the Cavs and Boston are just way ahead of everybody at this point. It's going to be really hard to catch those two, just mathematically at this point. So really it's between Orlando, Milwaukee, and New York. I guess you can throw into this group for 2 out of 3 spots in the top 4 for a home playoff series.
Yep.
It's close. I think I would take Milwaukee getting 1, but we shall see. Okay. Number 6. Basically every year that I can see here, honestly, no. I think that every single year I'm going back through all NBA basically to see if I can find an example of a year where a new player did not make all NBA. I am all the way back to like 2009, 2008. Like it is hard to find a year where there is somebody new who makes or doesn't make all NBA if it's like a repeat person. I have not found a year yet, even going back. Basically, every year in the 2000s is the way to answer this. Every single year in the 2000s, there has been a player that has never made the All-NBA team before that makes the All-NBA team. Who is the player that you think makes All-NBA for the first time this season?
So this came down to a few for me. So I'm interested to see if you have any names outside of this. One of the Cavs guys, not Donovan Mitchell, obviously, but like they just dominate the regular season and whoever people deem their second best player.
Sure.
One of the Magic guys, which like Paolo's already getting dangerously close to the games played.
I don't know if Paolo's going to get there on games played.
Yeah. And so I guess it kind of depends. Like, does Franz continue to be this dude when Paolo gets back or, that? So that was one of the Thunder guys.
Yep.
And
so really it'd have to be Jalen, by the way.
Yeah. Cause Chet's going to
miss games.
Yeah. And then Wemby.
Those were the other 2 names that I came up with were Şengün.
Okay.
I think that we have to talk about him in this regard. Like there's Houston is 13-6 right now. Şengün is averaging 19, 11, and 5. And yeah, the percentages are down, but like, if he starts finishing at the rim, it's like very serious that this is a conversation. And I also brought up LaMelo because look, I don't think LaMelo is going to make all NBA. I think that, I still have my questions about LaMelo, like playing winning basketball. Hornets fans can point to the roster all they want. I don't disagree with you necessarily, even on the roster. It's just that I would like to see it before I give him an All NBA nod. But he's averaging 31 points and 7 assists right now. Like, he's been ridiculous to start the year.
So my thing with LaMelo was just the wins. I just don't see how, let's say they, they're on a 28-30 win pace right now. I just find it hard to believe he ends up All NBA with that amount of wins. And you're right, like the team stuff, whatever, he's playing incredible. The numbers are what they I've witnessed him hit clutch shots and take games over, and all of the stuff that's good about LaMelo I've seen. I just have a hard time believing he's going to get the nod. All-star, yes. All NBA, no. Not at this win rate.
I agree. So my answer here is obviously Wemby.
Yeah.
I think that Wemby is the right answer at the end of the day. I think Wemby will make All NBA this year.
Yep.
Having said that, if you had to pick one other name, I think my answer would probably be Jalen Williams. The only reason being that I think when Paulo comes back, I think Franz has been better than Jalen Williams this year, but I think that Franz will take a slight step back offensively. And you could say Chet's going to get back and Jalen will take a slight step back. But I think that Paulo's usage coming in is just way greater than what Chet's usage is going to be. And at the end of the day, I think that Jalen will have a better chance. But I think that, to me, the three guys that like really stood out in this conversation were Wemby, Jalen Williams, Franz Wagner. And by the way, like, a lot of money on the table for Franz and Jalen making All NBA. Franz gets Supermax if he makes All NBA. Jalen, I don't know if he'll be eligible for the Supermax if he makes All NBA. I think he actually wouldn't. He'd have to make it next year as well. But a lot of money on the table for those guys.
No interest in any of the Cavs guys. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Ty Jerome. Like, come on, can we get Ty Jerome?
Yeah, I know, right? I think my answer is that Donovan Mitchell will just make All NBA, and that'll be the representative.
And they won't get 2. Like, what if they win 60 games? You don't think they can get 2? I think they all take votes from each. I don't.
Yeah.
I actually think they take votes from each other. Like, everybody will debate who's the second most important player. Is it Darius? Is it Mobley? Is it Jarrett Allen? And then you never end up getting one of them. And I think it would take them winning 60 plus games to even have the conversation. I just think they're really, really good. And so I didn't know which one, and that's probably why it's not one of those guys. But I wanted to bring those guys up at least.
Yeah, and look, like, if Şengün starts finishing and the Rockets win 55 games, like, that's a real conversation too. Like, he was honestly like the next guy for me.
Okay.
After those 4, because they are a really good team, and it could be that like people want to reward that at the end of the day. But
for sure,
my read currently is Wemby for sure. Then I would say Franz and Jalen. Then I would say Şengün next in this group.
Got you.
Okay. Question number 7. Who is the player league-wide that you can realistically see getting moved at the deadline that would swing the title race the most?
So this one's tough to me because, like, the cop-out is, like, different levels of players could swing it differently for certain teams. So I'll be honest, the first name that came to mind that, like, I think this guy's actually going to get traded. I think he's playing awesome right now. And so it was Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson was the first name that came to me.
Yeah, that was in my top 2 names for sure.
Okay.
Cam Johnson's a good name.
A sneaky one, and I don't think he would change it as much, and I don't know if he gets traded. I just love this dude, is Colin Sexton.
Interesting name. I worry about him defensively in the playoffs.
So that's why I don't think he's as good of an answer. I just think he's really good. I don't know that he makes the same impact that probably the type of players we're going to talk about, who I assume are bigger wings, could make. Yeah. So I think Cam Johnson's my answer. Who's the other, who's the second guy?
So just real quick on Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is shooting 49.8% from the field, 43% from three, 91% from the line so far, averaging 18 points. He's 6'8". He's not like an amazing defender, but he's a pretty good defender. Anybody that was able to go get Cam Johnson would be it'd be an enormous benefit to them. Honestly, if I'm Brooklyn, I don't know that I move Cam Johnson.
Sure.
Like, he is such a development helper for whoever your next star is whenever you draft them. So it would take like multiple first round picks to me to move Cam Johnson. And maybe a team will do that. I don't know. Oklahoma City, by all means, could move 3 first round picks and it wouldn't even make a dent in their cache of first round picks. Yeah. So maybe they do it. I don't know. The player for me, other than Cam Johnson, was Zach LaVine.
Okay. I was going to bring him up because he's been playing really well. I wasn't sure. He's an interesting player to go fit into a contender.
Zach LaVine is averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and shooting 52, 44, 83 right now. Yeah. And he's creating offense. Like Cam Johnson has offense created for him. Zach LaVine is the one creating offense, and he's still that efficient and that incredible as a scorer.
Yep.
If a team like the Rockets, the Nuggets, anybody just decided that they were able to go do this, like he's like could swing a race to me. He is that good on offense. He is that efficient as a shooter, that good as a scorer, and we've seen him lock in defensively enough in Team USA situations. He is not like a complete catastrophe on that end of the court if he like chooses not to be. Well, to me, it's him. Like if the Bulls are able to get off of that deal, and I don't know if teams are going to want to take that money still. He still has, after 2 years, or after this year, I'm sorry, about $94 million left on his deal for 2 years. And it's a lot of money.
Someone that athletic, if they will focus in and lock in, they can at least find a way to be helpful on the defensive end. I think what stood out to me this year when I watched Zach LaVine, and I checked my notes to make sure, he's not forcing things. He is, and he's doing some creation things. I watched him play the Pistons and just not force things, not take bad shots. And then he hit 6 threes in the fourth quarter and just completely took over the game. So he can still make tough shots when you need him to. But his field goal attempts outside of last year, where he only played 25 games, is the lowest since early in his career, again, when he wasn't playing full seasons. Like, I mean, he was a 20, 19, 18 field goal. He's at 15.8. He's doing it very efficient within the flow of the game. And he can really, really get hot whenever he needs to, along with just creating offense for his team in general. It's a really interesting name, a guy that's been much maligned because of the injuries in the contracts. I will be fascinated to see if there's a team out there that actually values him in a way that can come in and help their team.
The other team that makes a ton of sense here is Orlando. I mean, God, if they got him, I would love that team. Like, unconditionally. They'd have killer guards. They'd have real rim protection. The other thing that they can really offer here on, I think it's like January 6th, which is hilarious. Oh my God, for this player. On January 6th, Jonathan Isaac becomes eligible to be traded, and they can offer the Bulls like significant financial savings on a LaVine deal, which is super, super valuable for that team. And also, like, they can get to the money with Isaac and KCP alone. Now, obviously, I don't know if the Bulls would want value or what, but like they can get to that money pretty easily. They also have the Cole Anthony contract. They have, the Goga Batadze deal. They have a number of ways to get there. But if they were to go get Zach LaVine, Orlando, like that's a swing for them. That would be huge.
What about the Clippers then? We talk about the Clippers needing scoring.
Sure. Love it. Let's do it. I'm into it. Why would the Magic trade Jonathan Isaac? Because Zach LaVine is exactly what they need, is the answer.
And they have such a plethora of big guys. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like Wendell Carter Jr.
So many bigs.
Play the other night, and they start Goga, who plays really well, and then they bring in Mo, and he plays well too. It's like, gosh, dang, they have as many as they need, and no wonder they didn't keep J Huff.
That's right. Okay. That's my answer, though, is Levine. There are a number of teams that could use scoring weirdly, and Levine is the answer there. Okay. Question 8.
This one's not a fun one. This isn't fun, Sam.
At least one of Houston, Dallas, Memphis, Phoenix, the Lakers, Golden State, Denver, or Minnesota will not make the playoffs this year. That's how good the Western Conference is. All of those teams, I think, would be top 4 teams in the East, just point blank. Maybe top 5 teams is the better way to put it. At least one of them will not make the playoffs this year. Who is the team that you think out of that group, let's say, is least likely to make the playoffs right now?
Here's what's funny. The Kings aren't even an option in this question. Like, we're kicking the Kings out of the playoffs with this question already. So,
but like, I could throw the Kings in and make it 2 of these teams will not make the playoffs. Like, I'm comfortable doing that.
I would instantly choose the Kings, and we would be right back where we're at. So I think I'm between the Clippers and the Timberwolves at this point. Between these, we've talked about Houston.
No. I have not counted the Clippers here either.
Oh, that's the Lakers.
That's the Lakers.
Oh, shit.
We can count the Clippers and say 3 with the Kings.
Hold up. This isn't right. Are you sure you counted right?
Yes. So there are Houston 1, Dallas 2, Memphis 3, Phoenix 4, Lakers 5, Golden State 6, Denver 7, Minnesota 8, and then Oklahoma City is the 9th team. So there are only 8 teams that make the playoffs.
Okay, so this is play-in, not the... Oh, okay. We're getting playoffs. 18 playoffs. Got you. My bad. Minnesota is the team. Gosh, dang it.
This version of Minnesota would be my pick right now for what it's worth.
They're just the team that I don't believe in them. When I watch them, I'm just like, I don't believe in this. Phoenix could be a cop-out answer with injury stuff. I just really like Memphis. I like Dallas. We've given Houston a lot of credit. Yeah, Minnesota, I guess, based off what we've seen so far.
My worry for Minnesota is that there are too many guys on that team right now that you don't have to guard. Jaden McDaniels
has not improved
offensively nearly enough. The Randall fit is just not working. Like, it's just not. Like, I completely was wrong about that. Like, I'll take the L on that. Like, that, I thought that they would be able to figure it out and Chris Finch would be able to make it work, but like, having coached Randall and dealt with that, but I mean, I was fucking wrong. Like, that just does not look good at all right now. I think they would be my pick. I mean, the defense is way worse because of Randall. They don't have anything to like hold their hat on, it feels like right now. And also their late game offense is not particularly good either. So like Mr. Ray says, like, put Randall on the bench. You can't really do that because, like, if you do that, you're bringing in what, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and playing small, or you're bringing in Naz Reid and playing big. I mean, maybe you could go Naz Reid as the starter, but I still don't I don't think that helps the defensive side of the court a ton. It helps a little bit based on how Randall's playing right now. Maybe you do. Maybe that is the answer. You just bring Randall off the bench, but
you know who else has been awesome for them over the last little bit and hasn't been this year, and it's not his fault because he's 37 years old, is Mike Conley. Mike
Conley's a real problem for them right now.
Yeah, and I hate that. Like, I hate it because I love Mike Conley, but he wasn't good in the 13 games we've seen so far. He just straight up, he wasn't. We really talked about Dante being a nice piece of that trade. He has not been good for them so far. Maybe those things change somehow, but if they don't, you have a real problem in the backcourt when those are 2 of your 3 players. And like, you either turn to rookie Rob Dillingham, or maybe there's a move out there if you move Randall. But
I mean, Rob Dillingham definitely does not help you hang your hat on defense because teams are relentlessly attacking him right now.
Listen, he can get a bucket, but he is small, and this is what we talked about.
Yeah. Look, Dante, I think, is going to get better. Dante is not going to shoot 32% from 3 all year. Like, that's just not going to happen. Right. So I think that the bench will get better. I think the guard play will improve on some level because Dante will be better. But man, I don't know. It's tough.
Who's the next team?
It,
Like I don't think it's.
I picked my one. I don't know if I need to pick another.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair
Look,
enough.
look, it'd probably be Memphis because my answer is that like I don't know if Memphis will be healthy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like Memphis feels like the easiest answer just in terms of them not staying healthy all the time. But you know, that feels like bad analysis to me. So
what's funny is just looking at the standings, the Lakers actually have the worst just point differential of all these teams that we're talking about, which is interesting.
Who has the worst point differential?
No, I'm telling you, the Lakers do.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because the defense has been really bad. Look, with how this is all shaping up, like the Lakers are a reasonable pick here. I just think they're going to go out and make a move at the deadline and kind of fix their issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
What a conference. Hey, you want to do it on the East? That would be fun. Who's actually going to make the playoffs in the East?
Yeah, I mean, like freaking Atlanta is going to make the playoffs.
Between the Pacers, the Nets, the Bulls, the Pistons, and the Hawks, who is making the playoffs?
I think that 2 of those teams make the playoffs, by the way, not just 1.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9. Who is the prospect you are most intrigued by? Not the best prospect, but the most intrigue that you have for a single prospect in the 2025 NBA draft right now?
Oh man, this is a good one because it's like, how do I, decipher through all of these guys? I think Asa Newell has kind of been a guy that I've been intrigued by, like just trying to figure out who he is, what do I buy, where do I rank him? Obviously playing for Georgia. The shooting hasn't fully been there yet at all. The free throw percentage, offensive rebounds the heck out of the ball, some defensive disruption, scores the ball well otherwise on the offensive end, some versatility. He's intriguing to me. I haven't quite figured him out yet.
Yeah. So a couple of guys here. So to me, the answer here is just like it remains Ace Bailey, right? Like Ace Bailey is the guy that is going to swing this class one way or another, in my opinion. I have not loved the process to this point with Ace. And yet, like, if you look at the numbers, he's averaging as an 18-year-old, 17 points and 5 rebounds and is shooting 44% from the field and 44% from 3. He's like a serious shot maker. Like he is a really sick shot maker.
Yep.
So where does that leave you with him? I don't love the feel. I've always been a little bit lower on Ace Bailey because I don't think anything is easy for him. But if he's just going to be this level shot maker, it might not have to be easy. He might just be so freaking good that it doesn't matter. The issue for me is like never passes the ball. I think he falls asleep a little bit on defense too often. He might just be such a good shot maker that it doesn't matter. But I just Jordan Handelman says Michael Porter Jr. It feels very Michael Porter-y to me. That's what I said on a show a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of where I'm at on it, I guess. And Michael Porter is a really good basketball player. Like he's a top 70 player in the league, top 65. I don't know what the number is, but if Ace is that, he's still a top 5 pick. Like if he's Michael Porter Jr., you take him in the top 5. It's just, I don't know what he is yet.
Yeah, I watched, we talked about it. We watched the game. Well, I watched that Rutgers game from Tuesday night, obviously trying to, check out what Dylan Harper did with the numbers he put up and, kind of watch Ace's passing more so than anything because Ace is either going to make shots or he's not, but he gets to spots and he gets a shot off because he is so tall. Like you say, it never makes it easy. The handle's got to get better, but the passing was the thing that came out of that game. I thought he threw some passes in that game, but the nuance of his passes was not good. The decision-making wasn't always great. The velocity of some of his passes was way off. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to draft him to be the primary option, he's got to be able to do that stuff at least, that when a double comes, he makes the read, hits the on-time, on-target pass. And if he can't, then, okay, now you're an off-the-ball player. Where is that? I want to see that part of his game. Are you a mover? Are you a relocator? Are you a cutter? What's your catch and shoot numbers like compared to your off drill? Like, that's the Michael Porter Jr. thing, is, does he shoot off the catch, off screens, off movement the same way Michael Porter Jr. does, if he's going to ultimately have to play that role?
Yeah. And with Newell, like you brought up Newell, I'm really intrigued. I do really think he's going to have to shoot on some level, or else he's a 5, right?
Yep.
And if he's not a 5, it's going to be pretty tricky, I think. Okay. Final question here, Bryce. Who is the biggest riser for you in the 2025 NBA draft cycle?
I mean, I think just based on, like, maybe not just pure number, like, hey, he went from this number to this number, but Yegor, I think going from outside the lottery to the top 5 has to be the biggest riser, right? So far during the college season. I mean, I just based on,
but
yeah.
It has to be Yegor. It has to be Yegor. But explain why it's Yegor, and I'll pick a different name just for funsies. But yeah,
I mean, the size with the way he passes is ridiculous. He gets the ball in and out of his hands. He can whip passes, uses eye manipulations. He has some bad decisions with turnovers and stuff like that, but the passing looks really good. But really what it's come down to, and I'm sure this is what you would say as well, he shot the ball extremely well. I mean, I think if you told us that he was going to pass the ball well, we would believe that. And the assist to turnover ratio is stupid right now. 2.5 steals.
It's like 3.5 to 1.
Yeah. But he's over 50% from 3. We'll see how long it holds. We'll see if it does hold at all. But that's really what has vaulted him into the status that he's in right now.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think the passing is even better than what I thought it was, if I'm being honest.
Sure. Okay.
And part of it is that the shot is kind of opening things up for him to drive and then be able to make these like insane live dribble reads, right? They're going to play Ole Miss, I think, tomorrow, if I remember correctly, tomorrow or the next day. And that'll be an interesting one. That's their first like real true like high major game where they played a tough team. Like they've played like Queens College and UC Riverside and Idaho and teams like that. And he's looked unbelievable. I do want to see what he looks like against ball pressure. That's like a real thing. But the passing, the playmaking, I mean, he could enter the league as a top 10 passer from day one in the NBA, depending on how well the shot translates. I'll pick Jace Richardson here.
Okay.
I've loved Jace. I've loved everything that dude has done for Michigan State. And people will bring up, oh, but he's like 6'2" or whatever, and he's not a super athlete, and he's, you know, this, that, and the other thing. He's not really a point guard for them right now. Man, I don't really think I care. You watch that dude process the game and just think through it all on the court. I don't know if I've seen him make a bad decision yet this year. Just point blank. Like I've seen him miss shots. Obviously, he's shooting like 70% from 2-point range. It's 6'2" right now. He's making his threes. The 3-point shot is going to be the swing skill for me. But he looks like a one and done, in my opinion. Like you watch that dude play. He is super smart. He knows how to understand the game. His feel is outstanding. He passes well. He passes well off of a live dribble, but he also plays off of 2 feet really well. He's always on balance. He's just coordinated. He's consistent. The finishing touch around the basket is fantastic, despite like, so this is Jason Richardson's son for people who like former dunk contest, you know, champion, unbelievable leaper. He and Jace couldn't be more different as players. And oh my goodness, I love his game. I love how sharp he is. He played at Columbus High School.
He played with the Boozer twins.
With the Boozer twins. And honestly, what I'm starting to wonder, and like this might be a little bit unfair, particularly to Caden Boozer, but like, did we not get a chance at the high school level to see as much of what he was capable of, because everything at Columbus is kind of catered around the Boozers, rightfully, because Cam is who he is, right? But I wonder if we haven't gotten a chance necessarily to see what he's capable of yet on the ball, because every time he gets more responsibilities put on his shoulders by Michigan State, he is successful at an even greater level than the game before.
So the game last night was the first one I really watched him, and I came away very impressed. Like you said, shooting lights out. They were denying the crap out of him off the ball, which to me always says this is a guy that the other team really respects. And this was Memphis, who really gets after it defensively, like really gave UConn trouble on the defensive end. So I thought he looked very comfortable with the ball in his hands, had the nice little floater, thought the passing was legit. I thought he had good process on the boards. I think when you watch how guys attack rebounds, you can understand whether they understand the game. Do they make the rotations? Do they anticipate shots? Things like that. I thought he was doing all of that. And I was kind of intrigued by the defense. Even like he's smaller, but I think he had some good off-ball rotations. First half specifically, I thought he fought through ball screens well. The second half, he got hung up on some, but very, very interested in him after watching him for the first time last night.
Completely agree. He is a real player. I think he looks like a real dude, and he should start for Michigan State at the very least. I don't know what they're going to do long term with that, but he's a fantastic player.
I moved him into my potential first round tier. That's where I immediately moved him into my potential first round pick tier.
Okay, Bryce. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy
time to end the show.
Yep.
Please tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Pistons Pulse podcast for Pistons content, the Motor City Hoops Substack if you want more Pistons content. Otherwise, Game Theory podcast with Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. I did a post-game theory last night. You will be able to see everything there. Jabari Smith, Lakers defense, Ja Morant, OG Anunoby, Kristaps' return. Really dove into like 5 or 6 different things. Go there. Go to the YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. We mentioned the socials earlier. All of the socials that our fearless leader, Andrew Claudio, always handles over on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, X, Game Theory, Sam V. Go follow over there. That's all we got. I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving. We will be back on Sunday with Bryce, where we're doing awards, Bryce, for the first quarter of the season. I want to get that on your radar early because I know you have some Thanksgiving plans here, but you can look forward to that. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.